What's up, Apex University? My name is Dan and I'll be your coach for today. So today we're looking at some gameplay sent in by Cypher here, who appears to be 3-stacking with two of his friends, and they soft drop, or cold drop, sorry, in swamps, eventually ending up splitting up, two of them making their way over towards the relay side, and Cypher himself making his way over towards Hydro Dam. Now, once you get to Hydro Dam and start looting, one of your teammate ends up getting into a fight. He has the other teammate close to him, and you decide to go over quickly as possible, clean communication, and you instantly decide to go towards him, so far so good. The first thing I would like to point out here is that whenever you are in a party of 3 playing together, you're going to get into lobbies that generally have only other full parties of 3. So the dynamic is a bit different than when you're playing solos or duos, because you can expect teams to stick closer together, you can expect fewer solo and duo players that are isolated from their team, you can expect more teams to res, and you can expect the final circle to have more teams in it still alive, as people in general play a bit safer, so the fights are a bit bigger and a bit more organized. Because of that, this isolation that you've done, going to the other side of swamps from your team and being this far away, it's not bad necessarily, but it's something that you should only do when you're 3-stacked if you're confident that both your teammates that are together with the 2 of them right now could take on a full team if they encounter one, and then if you encounter one, you could either take on all 3 of them by yourself, or at the very least you're good enough to get away alive. So, with that part covered, I want to talk about what happens once they ping their enemy and you start making their way over. You decide to drop down from Hydro Dam, you're taking a very long way around it. I'm seeing you move left to right, like weaving between the trees and the houses and the objects quite a lot, as well as walking through the water. All of this slows you down significantly, so one of your teammates is already down by the time you get there and the other one is about to. What I would really like to see you do is take the left top from Hydro and go along the zipline. Even if you get shot there, you can use your void walk while you're on the zipline, or you can jump and reattach to it. You'll be fine. It's way faster to the other side, you'll approach from high ground and you'll have a way better line of sight on these enemies. As well as if you're trying to move at maximum speed, other than avoiding the water that you're now walking in, what I want to see you do after you put your weapons away is I want to see you slide every 2.5 to 3 seconds to increase your movement speed. So whenever you're running towards these teammates and you're still very far away, just think in the back of your head, 21, 22, slide. 21, 22, slide. Keep going like that and you'll make it a habit to move at maximum speed, as well as just being harder to hit when you move right. Then we move towards the point where you show up and you see your teammate down, you see the other teammate inside the house fighting, and you know approximately where the enemies are because they're fighting on the right side of the house, that your teammate is aiming towards the right, and the pings are on that side of the building as well. Now you are running an R99 and a Peacekeeper, and you yourself are Wraith, so you have a very strong close quarters combat loadout here. What I want you to do when you're approaching a fight like this with a close quarters loadout is instantly try to flank the position you expect the enemies to be at. They don't know where you are, they're not providing any pressure, so this is your window of opportunity to get in close and punish them with your close range weapons before they heal up or while they're healing from this fight with your team. The reason it matters that you're Wraith is because you can get away with it since you have your void walk to get out. All you have to do is either remember a safe escape path or where your team is, so that you can void walk towards them and heal. And this way you can play a very aggressive SMG shotgun loadout very effectively. Instead, what you end up doing is going behind and then around your team. You're kind of telegraphing your position, you're giving the enemy a lot of intel, and you're only giving one doorway that all this pressure is coming from, or one side of the building, so it's kind of easy for the enemy to play around this. You end up going all the way around. Your teammate went down and is pinging the enemy, so you know where he is, and here I would have really liked to see you aim through the window and shoot at the enemy. You know where he is before he knows where you are. At best case scenario for this enemy, he could tell that you're about to peek the window by the sound. That's the closest he could get. Other than that, he doesn't know where you are, he hasn't seen you, so I really want to see you peek through that, and at the very least just shoot a shotgun shot through there on him. Even if you keep running through the door right afterwards and you only deal 10 damage, that's still 10 damage that you're dealing to this opponent, and you're catching him off guard, putting some pressure on him where he's not expecting it. You know, any advantage is an advantage, and a lot of fights can be won with 10 extra health. As you move into the building, we are looking at you taking this fight with the last opponent, and the very first thing that I notice is that your aim is way too slow to keep track of this guy in close quarters combat. And what it looks like to me is that your sensitivity is simply too low to comfortably take a fight at this range. So what I thought would be beneficial is going through the two prevailing playstyles that there are in Battle Royales and what defines these playstyles and what you can do to practice them. So the two most prevailing playstyles are Rusher and Support, where a Rusher is an aggressive player that tries to get in close, fight 1v1s and quickly burst down opponents that have been damaged or have low quality armor, whereas a Support player is more of a tactical player that fights at range, tries to break the armor of all the teammates, get a quick knock that you can push on, spam some nades, stuff like that. So try to figure out which playstyle works for you and look at this list of things that this playstyle benefits from, so that you know what you want to practice and what you want to be good at. For example, a Rusher who fights in close range wants to live on the flanks. They always want to find isolated opponents or opponents that are healing after having their armor broken by your teammates, and you want to quickly burst them down with bursty weapons. These players need to acquire their targets very quickly and respond fast in close quarters combat. So this is a very fast-paced playstyle that generally benefits from a fairly high sensitivity. The most important thing to practice when it comes to mechanics, that we'll get into in the second part of this video, is flicking and combat movement. Then you've got a Support player that plays more at medium to long range. They want to have a full overview of the team fight. They want to prevent people from flanking. It's a slower, more tactical playstyle, and you generally benefit from tracking, and rather than combat movement you want good positioning and a good understanding of sidelines. So these people generally benefit from some lower sensitivity so that even at range they can still track accurately. So once you've found a playstyle that fits you, the next step is finding a loadout that works well with this type of play. So a Rusher will generally have a close range loadout much like yours. An R99 together with the Peacekeeper is a very good loadout because the R99 can punish opponents that are rushing you and pushing out in the open, whereas the Peacekeeper is perfect for close quarters engagements in buildings and around corners and small objects. A Support player, however, has a slightly more complicated loadout. They generally have a sniper, an LMG or an assault rifle to try and break as many armors from range as possible, or to try and get a quick knock, which the Rusher can then use to go in and take a fight. However, you still want to have the overall viability of your loadout to defend yourself if you get pushed, or to finish on breaking somebody's armor if your aggressive player dies. So most of the time for a Support player you'll see that they'll combine one medium to long range weapon like an R301 or a sniper, a longbow, whatever, with a close range weapon like a shotgun or an SMG. Lastly, when it comes to the legends, you can pretty much play any legend any way you want, but some are easier for a certain playstyle than others. In general, I would say Lifeline and Pathfinder are the most viable for any playstyle. They work for anything. The fast heal, the mobility. Pathfinder can jump in quickly like a Rusher, but can also instantly reset the high ground like a Support player. So those work for either one. Wraith, for reasons we've mentioned previously, being able to run in with a small hitbox, slide around and then use your Void Walk to get out after downing an opponent, is very well suited to close range engagements. However, if you're very far away, on top of a building or on top of a rock, your Void Walk honestly won't do much, it won't help you much. It'll prevent some damage, but it won't quite be enough to relocate, so this really isn't that beneficial for a Support player. Overall, the only thing that really matters when it comes to picking legends is understanding that Caustic and Gibraltar are not very well suited to a Rusher playstyle because they have a large hitbox and no way to get out if things go poorly. If you want to keep playing this close range playstyle, I would really recommend you increase your sensitivity to the point where you can at least comfortably do a 180-degree flicks without lifting your mouse. Because I can also hear when you're moving around during this VOD that you're constantly lifting your mouse, and every time you have to aim at somebody and you're lifting your mouse in between, that adds a little bit of inaccuracy and makes it more likely for your next shot to miss. So the more often you have to lift your mouse, the less accurate your aim is going to be. Also, of course, make sure you have enough mouse space to get away with low sensitivity. The more mouse space, the better. Especially since if you have it, you'll be tempted to use it and you won't even know you need it that much in the first place. Alright, so we end up getting into another fight right here. You guys are approaching from a low ground position. You do wait for your team, which is very nice. and you instantly decide to approach via the open. This is a pathing I don't really like. You take a lot of unnecessary poke damage, and as you slide inwards here, you decide to use your Void Walk to engage. So you've taken 50 damage already, you're engaging with your Void Walk. Now going back to the logic that we used before when it comes to your loadout and your playstyle. You have an SMG, you have a shotgun, a Peacekeeper, so you want to be getting close to this enemy team, preferably flanking them, so you and your team can put pressure from 2 different sides. So I don't want to see you approaching out via the open and the front like this with your team, because you're just taking poke damage before you get there for no reason. Instead, use that bottom where you were on the left side, or on the right side didn't really have cover, so on the left side to flank this enemy team and get up to their building without them having a line of sight on you. They might hear you, they might expect you there, but they're getting pincered and they can't deal this 50 damage to you. And much more importantly, don't engage with your Void Walk like this unless you have to, because now you have a 25-second cooldown there and you don't have a way out anymore, right? You've put yourself with 50 damage in a very precarious spot, and if your team has to heal here or isn't applying enough pressure, or one of the enemies is just ballsy enough, they could just quite easily drop on you from the building right now and kill you. So you end up climbing your way up and you get a great angle on the healing lifeline, get some damage on her. There's another enemy up there also healing, so this is a great ambush so far, an unintentional flank, but it still worked out great. These are the kind of opportunities I want to see you taking at the start of a fight, right? This ended up being really lucky, but you should have engaged the fight with something like this, with a more safer approach. And you get some good shots and you decide to drop down for a heal. This heal would not have been necessary with the 15 damage they did if you hadn't taken that 50 poke damage on your approach. So keep that in mind, like they did no damage to you up here, that's damage you had from before. Now I do like your decision to drop down and heal. You seem to be playing safe and creating time and space for your team to move in. My only issue is you look at where you're standing while you're healing. It would, like, either of these opponents could drop down on 3 sides of this building and have a line of sight and instantly shoot you and kill you from the top. So it's fine if you have to, like in a small building like this, there's nowhere you can really stand where they can't drop on you and instantly shoot you, but at least stand on a corner where they can only do so on one side and you don't have a line of sight from the other sides, so that you know which corner you need to aim at, and if they do drop you can instantly respond and try to use your Void Walk out, because you shouldn't have put it on cooldown. Alright, so let's move on to the rest of the fight. Right, your teammates end up jumping in, and here again we can see you are pushing literally into hugging, even kissing range of this opponent. Like you could kiss him on the ass cheeks the moment this wraith jumps in front of you right here, and you don't have to get this close, especially if you're on such a low sensitivity. Please keep in mind, the closer you get to somebody, the farther you will have to move your mouse to keep track of them, and this is something that I think you really struggle with, at least judging from this game. So really try some more range. Even if you have a Peacekeeper, you could easily be 10 meters farther away and a quick ADS shot would have done the same damage right here. Now you're focusing a downed opponent instead of the one that's up. You're 3v1 now, so it's fine, or 3v2, but realistically you shouldn't have been focusing on that downed opponent. You should be focusing on the one that's up. You don't ADS with your R99, that's good because you have 3x on it and you guys win the fight. Again, you're focusing on a downed opponent when there's still one up. If you're gonna finish one, make it be the one on the roof. They're more likely to drop down and get healed. But hey, you won the fight, so let's move along. Alright, so you guys heal up, you grab the Mastiff, but your teammate says they're out of ammo and ask if they can have it. Communication so far is very good, you don't mind switching with him, so that's nice. You are still very range limited, so I want you to keep in mind that going into this last fight, you have to find a way to engage that overcompensates for your limited range. At this point in the game, I would consider taking a more ranged weapon, but you do have a choke on the Peacekeeper, so that just kind of depends on how much you like using the Peacekeeper at range. It is viable, but just kind of keep in mind on your last engage here that it can be tough versus the last team if they're posted in a good position to figure out how to find them with these weapons. And now you can see exactly why. Like, they are in a terrible spot. They are below your team. They have only small cover, but there's still nothing you can do with your R99. You have a 3x on it, but there's no way you're going to control the recoil enough right here to really laser them. You're just going to be doing trash damage and wasting a lot of ammo. So Again, here you should be looking for an angle of approach where you can pincer these enemies behind bad cover, overlap lines of sight with your teammate from different angles and get value out of these close range weapons. That, or figure out where they are going to flank from and be ready there so that when they push you can still take a close range fight and you can get some free damage on them at the start. You do decide to drop on the left where the Wraith might be pushing, so far that's very good. You're not really ready for her. You drop preemptively, but you kind of stand out in the open and just strafe a bit and see what happens. So you'll be a bit quicker, a bit more proactive, take a little bit of cover and pre-aim like the staircase or wherever you hear her, spamming a bit through the building, and your teammate end up going down. Right here, I want to pause because as soon as this teammate goes down, even though you can't see the opponent yet, the Bangalore that ends up running into this building that kills your teammates, you instantly should know where 2 opponents are out of a potential 3. You've got the Wraith in the building in front of you. That is nowhere close to pushing you right now. You've got the Bangalore on the right on your teammates. Now you know that you're sandwiched between them. You know that the Bangalore is away from her team, and you know that the Wraith is in no position to help other than spamming through the window. So here I really want to see you prioritize the people on your team, even though they're downed. See if you can get a quick down, drop down to heal, and then take the fight with the Wraith as she's showing up. Like, you can anticipate her showing up about 4 or 5 seconds after you start a fight with the Bangalore in this building. So kind of try and use that. You have a Peacekeeper, you have an R99, so 4 or 5 seconds should be enough for you to deal a lot of damage to the Bangalore and then be ready for the Wraith to push. Instead, you end up waiting on low ground behind small cover against 3 opponents where you know that there's a Wraith on the left that still has a line of sight on you here, right? So you can't really block both of these lines of sight at once, and you end up getting punished for it. So you could have reset here at least and taken cover. That would have also been an option, or you could have pushed the Bangalore and Octane on the building. I don't necessarily think you would have won that fight, but it would have been a much better play, and the fact that you weren't prepared for anything and you kind of just went with what you saw in front of you, I think was your biggest downfall. Overall, after looking at your gameplay, my recommendation would be that you think about the pathing you take to get to flanks, how you determine which enemies you're going to push, find them isolated, find ways to help your team apply pressure from different sides to the enemies, or if the rusher playstyle doesn't end up being something you like, then make a transition to the support playstyle. That's what I play. I heavily recommend it. It's a lot of fun. But as I did promise, I will be uploading a video tomorrow where for anybody that has this kind of aggressive playstyle, I'm going to be recommending what drills I would use if I were you to work on my mechanics. With that said, I hope this was helpful. Peace.